There's something strange about modern wealth. Everywhere you look, people seem rich. Luxury cars in apartment parking lots, designer bags in coffee shops, watches that cost more than most people's rent. Scroll through social media, and it feels like everyone is winning. Everyone is traveling. Everyone is living the dream. But here's the uncomfortable question nobody likes to ask. How many of those people are actually wealthy? Because looking rich and being rich are two completely different things. One is about signaling, the other is about stability. One is loud, the other is quiet. And right now, we live in a culture that rewards the appearance of success far more than the reality of financial security. I've seen people driving a $120,000 car who would panic if an unexpected $3,000 bill showed up tomorrow. I've seen closets full of luxury brands and bank accounts with almost nothing inside them. So today I want to walk you through 10 signs that someone may look wealthy on the outside, but behind the scenes, they're drowning in debt. And before anyone feels personally attacked, let me say something clearly. Most of us have made at least one of these mistakes at some point. I certainly have. This video isn't about shaming people. It's about understanding the difference between wealth that is real and wealth that is just a performance. Because once you see the difference, you start making very different decisions with money. And here's the dangerous part. Most people who are fake rich don't even realize they are. One of the fastest ways to look rich is also one of the fastest ways to stay poor. The luxury car. And I'm not talking about someone who truly has the money and enjoys cars as a hobby. I'm talking about the person who stretches their finances to the absolute limit just to sit behind a logo. You'll see someone driving a Lamborghini, a Porsche, or a high-end Mercedes, but if you look at the rest of their finances, the story is very different. Insurance alone on some of these cars can cost thousands per year. Maintenance can easily exceed the price of an international vacation. And the moment you drive that car off the dealership lot, the value begins to drop. According to data from Carfax and Edmunds, a new car loses around 20 to 30% of its value in the first year, and roughly 50 to 60% within the first 5 years. Luxury cars often depreciate even faster. I once met a guy at a car meet driving a beautiful $90,000 sports car. From the outside, it looked like he had everything figured out. Later in the conversation, he casually mentioned something that stuck with me. His bank account had around $600 left until the next paycheck. That moment said everything. Real wealth doesn't need to prove itself in a parking lot. And if a car payment is eating up a huge portion of your monthly income, that car isn't signaling success. It's signaling pressure, but it gets worse. Another common sign of fake wealth is the fully branded lifestyle. Designer handbags, luxury sneakers, high-end watches, every outfit looks expensive, every accessory carries a famous logo. And to be clear, there's nothing wrong with luxury items if they fit inside a healthy financial structure. The problem is when the luxury is the only thing that exists, there's actually an interesting economic reality behind the luxury industry. Contrary to popular belief, it's not billionaires who keep luxury brands thriving. Much of the demand comes from the upper middle class trying to signal status. A well-known analysis by Morgan Stanley showed that a large portion of luxury brand growth comes from aspirational buyers, people stretching financially to access the image of wealth. Luxury culture is also constantly reinforced by celebrities and influencers. Famous athletes, actors, and musicians showcase designer brands as symbols of success. And without realizing it, people begin to associate those items with achievement. So people buy the watch, the bag, the shoes, but ask about savings, and the conversation gets quiet. Ask about investments, and the topic changes quickly. And when most of it goes toward items that lose value the moment you buy them, the appearance of wealth becomes very expensive theater. And this is where things start breaking. Credit cards are one of the most powerful tools ever created for modern consumption. They allow people to live a lifestyle today that their income hasn't earned yet. The restaurant bill goes on the card. The vacation goes on the card. The shopping spree goes on the card. The danger isn't the card itself. The danger is using future income to pay for present ego. Most people imagine debt comes from one huge mistake. In reality, it usually comes from accumulation. Small payments stack quietly over time. Subscriptions, weekend dinners, travel upgrades, online shopping. Individually, they feel manageable. Together, they create financial gravity. And if a balance carries over, the interest rates can become brutal. Credit card interest in the United States often sits around 20 to 25% annually. That means debt can grow much faster than people expect. When someone relies heavily on credit to maintain their lifestyle, they're not funding their life with wealth. They're funding it with borrowed time. This isn't exciting. That's why it works. Pay for what you can actually afford. Now, here's another trap people fall into. Another sign shows up the moment someone's income increases, the raise comes in, and immediately the lifestyle expands to match it. Bigger apartment, better car, more expensive restaurants. On the surface, it feels like progress, but in reality, nothing changes. The bank account stays the same, the savings stay the same, the financial stress often stays the same too. This phenomenon is called lifestyle inflation, and it quietly traps people for decades. Because the moment someone gets used to a higher standard of living, it becomes very hard to step back. So the money flows in and flows right back out. And here's the uncomfortable part. Some people don't just enjoy nice things, they feel the need to constantly prove that they have them. Every dinner needs to be photographed. Every trip needs to be documented. Every purchase becomes part of a narrative of success. This is where status signaling enters the picture. Psychology has studied this behavior for decades. In the book, The Status Game, author Will Storr explains that humans are deeply motivated by social recognition. Status within a group can influence decisions more than logic. Sometimes we end up spending money trying to impress people who barely notice. People buy things they don't need with money they don't have to impress people they don't even like that much. If the focus is always on looking successful, the financial foundation underneath that image is often weaker than it appears, and this leads to the next problem. A lot of modern wealth is actually rented. Leased cars, financed electronics, subscription lifestyles, everything looks impressive, but very little is actually owned. Ownership builds wealth, payments build dependency. When most of someone's income is tied up in monthly payments, they're not building assets. They're maintaining appearances without investments, without savings, without reserves, just hoping everything keeps going smoothly, and life rarely works that way, which brings us to something more serious. The real issue isn't expensive habits themselves. Plenty of wealthy people enjoy nice dinners, travel, and luxury experiences. The difference is resilience. History has shown how unpredictable the world can be. In 1929, the financial system collapsed. In 2020, entire industries shut down almost overnight. But it doesn't even have to be a global crisis. Sometimes it's a job loss, a medical issue, or a family emergency. Life introduces chaos when we least expect it, and if someone's finances are fragile, those moments reveal everything. Financial strength isn't about avoiding surprises, it's about being ready for them, and that brings us to something many people ignore. According to the Federal Reserve, about 37% of Americans would struggle to cover a $400 emergency expense without borrowing money or selling something. Think about that. A $400 problem can destabilize an entire household. I remember hearing conversations like this growing up in many families. Something basic breaks, like the refrigerator, the car, or the washing machine, and suddenly everyone is stressed. Not because the problem is enormous, but because there was never a buffer. That's how the cycle of scarcity keeps repeating. An emergency fund isn't glamorous, it doesn't impress anyone, it doesn't look good on Instagram, but it creates breathing room. When something goes wrong, the problem stays small. It's not exciting, and that's exactly why it works. And without that buffer, the entire lifestyle someone built can collapse under a single unexpected bill. Now here's another silent wealth killer. Lifestyle inflation quietly erodes financial progress. The moment income increases, spending expands to match it. Promotions lead to bigger apartments, bonuses lead to luxury purchases, raises lead to upgraded lifestyles. The problem is that wealth is built from the gap between what you earn and what you spend. If that gap never exists, wealth never appears. The final sign is one of the most common misunderstandings in personal finance: confusing income with wealth. Income is what you earn. Wealth is what you keep. Someone earning $250,000 per year but spending $240,000 is not wealthy. Meanwhile, someone earning $60,000 who consistently saves and invests can quietly build real financial security over time. Income creates opportunity, discipline creates wealth, and without assets, savings, and investments, income alone cannot provide long-term stability. Real wealth is usually far less glamorous than people expect. It doesn't scream for attention, and it doesn't need to constantly prove itself. In many cases, it actually looks boring. It's built through patience, consistency, and quiet investing repeated over long periods of time. I enjoy watches, and I've collected several because I appreciate the craftsmanship behind them. But that doesn't mean every category of luxury makes sense for me. Cars are a good example. They tend to lose value quickly, so for me, buying a reliable used car simply makes more sense financially. Luxury isn't forbidden. The key is being intentional about where your money goes. Do the boring things consistently, because over time, those quiet decisions are usually the ones that work. Now, here's the interesting part. Even people who avoid these traps can still make mistakes when it comes to investing, because the financial world has its own hidden dangers that almost nobody talks about. Everyone loves discussing gains. Very few people talk about the darker side of investing, the mistakes, the psychological traps, and the decisions that quietly destroy portfolios. So if you want to understand the part of investing that most channels avoid completely, click the video appearing on your screen right now. The dark side of investing nobody talks about. Money, no fluff.